All right, so just putting some notes together here. I've been working on this. It's kind of a chosen one. Sort of the elements that have been really explored on these channels, associated with the tarot community and all of that. So it's Revelation 17 and 18 here really kind of get into a lot of the same kind of themes that were really. Oh, it's been download after download. It seems like through a lot of those that are oracles for this. If this is something new to you, you can go to probably hashtag chosen ones and things like that. And there's a variety of things, and those who agree with it or disagree with it, TikTok, YouTube, that kind of thing. And what I'm attempting to do here is to make biblical cases for it, not to entirely say that this is the whole interpretation of this. There are types, there are shadows, there are expressions of things. And it's, all of these things is all kind of cyclical too. Different timelines, you get the Tower of Babel, things like that. So we're just looking at the fall of Babylon, though, here, verse 18. I just want to, I'm going to use the main ESV translation. I think a lot of us are in agreement that that's pretty solid. But I like to use the Message for a little bit, and this is a translation that I'll have published in some form. Let me know if you're interested. But it's kind of the Starseed translation for a lot of different things. But ruins, empty streets and shadows. Babylon has become a ghost town, a cage for unclean spirits and draining energies. All the nations drank her poison wine, and the rich grew fat on her corruption and schemes. So we're talking about a spirit. Babylon is always represented, kind of the spirit of the age. Where it's, you can have like what we really haven't seen is this new heavens and earth, where all seven spheres of society are. From arts and entertainment, which we associate can be there's a Christian division of that kind of thing. Although a lot of times it does look like the world, and who knows what's what there sometimes. But then there's the righteous government, of course. It is something where ultimately Jesus will be at the head of that kind of thing. But there's an element of being caught up in that. Harlot, as it would. And so we get at the end of the age where there's the bride, which is the many are called, few are chosen, made ready. And then there's the harlot, the whore of Babylon, which is then kind of judged by the Antichrist, and it kind of goes on from there. So I'm just going to go back up here because it's the established, timing and some of these things. Some scriptures are pretty well centered and dedicated to this topic that are, I think, need to be part of the framework and part of the conversation. Okay, so 2 Thessalonians, let no one deceive you by any means, for that day will not come unless the falling away comes first. There is no way. That Greek word is a rapture. That's quite a reach. It is a falling away, and it's a losing religion, falling away from the faith. That there's something that happens to where people, those who are chosen, fall. You might have a pollen twin, or know some people that they definitely have the call and the gifts, but they're using them for the devil. Let's have a time they're on now, and not that they don't come back or anything like that. We're praying for them, but those that are not karmic, that are not divine masculine, divine feminine, to use the language, and so in this, there's the man of sin is the Antichrist. Will be global leader. That hasn't happened yet, in that he hasn't been revealed. Is he alive on the earth? I believe he is. Could we see him soon? We could. He will let us know. There will be it's interesting to me, because I think there's types and shadows, and it does not necessarily mean it's going to be the ultimate fulfillment. But if you look at, Revelation 13, and there's this leader that talks about, getting healed by a head wound, that kind of thing. I think it will happen that was prophesied beforehand. I don't think that Trump is Antichrist, but I think that there was an element of whether those who were, on one side or the other. That's what that was in mind a little bit. They want to suggest that he is, or associated with it, because we're getting closer to the time kind of thing. But will we see someone else prophesy that they will do that, and then it will happen? So I want to talk about this verse showing himself that he is God, right? He sits at God in the temple of God, whatever that looks like. Exalts himself above all it is, and that is worshipped, right? So part of this thing is that the harlot goes away, and the Antichrist comes there, and some of the manifestation concepts that we've been talking about is a little bit of as if we're all God in that kind of way, and so using the abilities, astral traveling, everything else is sort of like a demonstration in of itself. It's an Antichrist spirit that it's kind of talking about, and so it's kind of testing his powers, but in a demonic way, because these powers are going to be used to oppress and demand worship, but it's according to the working of Satan. Coming away, this is still the verse here, or the section. There'll be lying wonders, there'll be signs, there'll be powers, but it's all going back to the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It's just full on devoted, and there's no like pretending it's not Lucifer's power behind the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The illusions. He's coming out in this. Jesus was half God, half man, in a sense, or fully God, fully man. I should say. I was thinking of the humanity of Mary in that sense, but he still retained his humanity, and yet, mind-blowingly, had both completely fully God. In a way that we are sons of God and yet cannot be, will never be equal to, but we will carry the righteousness of. But Satan will claim to be equal to and greater than, okay? But we may do greater works as part of the Christ consciousness and individually. But here he is. And with all unrighteous deception among those who perish, they did not receive the love of truth. So he's going to deceive many people. And then is God going to deceive people or allow people to be deceived on purpose? And these are chosen because they never received the love of truth. One of the most massively important things Paul ever said, verses in the Bible, most important. And right now you can just pray, Lord, every day, help me love truth, help me love truth, help me resist delusion, point the delusion out. And it's getting easier. For the past 4 years, it's gotten so easy to see. So he sends them strong delusion that they should be able to believe a lie, that all may be condemned who did not believe the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. I talked a lot on this channel about quiet atheism in the heart. As a man believes in his heart, so he is. And through the past 4 months is experiencing the heart of God, the broken heart of God, of the Father heart of God who wants to be with his children, who come near but don't acknowledge, or the bridegroom who has the bride who wants the kingdom but not the king. All of the all the kind of Jezebelic, Satan brings division among the households, and so when it talks here about Revelation 17, we start to see this Babylon, this harlot, this energy harvesting network. It says, "Come, I'll show you how judgment's about to fall on this infamous prostitute." And again, prostitute it's again contrasting to the bride, but there's also this element of sexual immorality. There's 4 big sins at the end of the age of Revelation, and so John, is John the Revelator, who wrote this book. One of the 7 angels comes to him and he said, "The Lord wants you to show you a vision. Come up higher." And so, it's a symbol. Babylon's the archetype of systems that exploit, starseed or chosen one energy, because that connection with source, that's divine, that happens at the new birth. When we're supposed to be in this place of it's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives within me. But when you are born again and you give your life to Christ, or you have that call upon your life, or there's people define it different ways. There's the light workers and things like that. These are if you're in that kind of energy, typically it's tricky, because the higher your calling, a lot of times the more orchestrated the system's attack can be on your vessel from an early age. And so it's tricky because you can see Israel is continually unfaithful. The church is continually unfaithful. Christians that you probably know are continually unfaithful, and because of the element that's coming against them. And yet here is this time of divine grace where we're being called upon out of it. And it's part of this ascension and the breaking of the curses that there's this fresh grace for, is because fighting that battle, fighting the battle. And here we are in this time where there's this what they call like a breaker anointing to break through and get through. But it's you see the ones that are experts. They've risen and fallen so many times, before they actually landed there. How many times is someone who's a beginner, a novice, whatever? It's a progression. Paul said we go glory to glory. But this is, the dominion goes across global culture. There may be more nations that export their, the spirit or this religion kind of, but it's not necessarily going to be called, hey, come to my Harlot church. It's already been established, and here's this next verse. Earth leaders got drunk on her promises, and her wine left the nation stumbling into bed with lies. And so illusions of wealth and fame and power that lure humanity into compromise. And so we become ensnared by her false promises, abandons divine alignment. And we've got verse 3. Angel carries him off to a desert, and there's this red beast, and it heads, false power, all these things. And so this is systemic, the fear, the control, the corruption, all that's what's been manipulated, that Jezebel spirit. And the cup in her hand was filled with the raw betrayal and the stench of stolen energy. And so the exploitation of the starseed, of those who had a calling and a gifting that was supernatural in the sense, who was part of their birthright. Not that they didn't have to work and labor and hone their craft, but there's a divine innovation, creativity, and all these things that when they're allowed to be in their element and really thrive. But again, all these systems were intent on breaking that and smashing in, and they have to have be set up with the right avenue of the vehicle and resource and whatnot. Not like a vehicle, not in a car, but like there's a creative energy that takes things and to the next level, and it's that whole thing. Because a lot of times that they can a lot of them we would call neurodivergent or something like that, because they can be so much into the subconscious in this element of where they are continually being creative and solving these sort of things. But there has to be that spark and connection there with them. It's a lot with it. But because of the nature of all that kinds, these oppressive systems have been designed to drain that energy and funnel it into these other. Because what they kind of behold, not only do they become, it's 2 Corinthians, but also unless they're being harvested from, it expands. What they get, what you give energy to, expands, it grows. They're manifestors. They call them manifest sons of God. When Paul's talking about them, depending on translation, right? So, and through all of that, it's just like that's how she was able to lure people out of the bride, right? Is it lured them into this? And of course, everybody thought, well, it's a little mixture, a little Christianity and a little bit of the world, and one foot over here, one foot over there, and we talk about. So when all of these narratives you hear on there about all these karmics were trying to keep divine feminine, divine masculine apart, these two. That's why, because two people got started to get together, and and the original timeline, it was a beautiful thing. The kingdom went forth, and we're talking about timelines and time jumpers and all these things associated with this belief system. I believe it. I've seen it, and so they started to get off you the counterfeit person that's like that initial person, but it's they're karmic, and you'll see the nature of the karmic thing is into the spirit, because it's rooted and paid off and fully so enmeshed in that spirit that it wants to be sort of paid, or it's kind of hard to describe, but there's demonic assignments and everything else that want this the karmic person to latch onto that divine feminine, divine masculine, and keep their battery plugged in and fueling this system. And how they do that is it's hard to believe, but unless you've seen it, and I've gone to it in other places, that kind of thing. But what you can even just think of them as like a spy or a handler or something like that. It's someone who's designed to keep someone from knowing their power, or from even freeing other people, But also, to get them into a counterfeit movement, and it's, I don't know. I mean, you look at like Courtney Love was a great ambassador for this Jezebel spirit, whether, I mean, you can just see at different times, I kind of wonder whose side she was on. Stuntable pilots, a number of people, lots of people have written songs about her. And I'm not going after her. I'm going after things that people have said it's in the public record, and I still believe she can be saved and everything else. I'm just saying, it's an example for those who maybe have seen this. There were star seeds that were meant to write for the kingdom of the Creator and ended up in the other place, or just kind of in this middle ground, or whatever it is. For some, they were taken out. For some, they were smear campaigned. For some, they were pulled into, the sexual immorality and corruption, perversion, all these other things. I mean, all the different elements. But it was always this counterfeit religion, even if it doesn't call itself a religion, it was all of this, and it was so that the creativity, the finances, the inspiration, and all of these things would prop up this idol. Now, seduction was, typically at the core of this, right? And that's that element that just wants to lure someone away from the faith. These people know who is the ones who are people of the light, whatever you want to call that. I hate to say Christians because it's not necessarily. I mean, there's a lot of people that are just karmic in there that are trying to keep, married to this person for their money to keep them away from the Lord, or whatever it is. I mean, there's just only the Lord knows that kind of thing, and it's not. It's tricky because there's connections and soul ties and co-manifestation and all these elements. So, but we're getting into a time, and we're hearing more and more stories of those who are coming out, just like, oh, okay, they wanted to keep the kingdom without the king. Just don't say Jesus or this religion over here or whatever it is, and so. Or you can have a little bit of Christ, but like it's the kind of Christ that's like He saved us all, and you don't have to do anything. You don't have to give Him your life or build anything on the Word or the Spirit of God or anything like that. Just don't make waves, And it's we're all But that's what the Lord does. Is He gives Joseph that coat of many colors, and it's up and done. I mean, it's just his brothers put him there, but it's a time of growth. It comes out of it. Eventually, getting back into his calling. It's going to shake that off, but. There's mystery, Babylon the Great, mother exploitations and spiritual abominations is this translation I'm establishing here, because it's like there is so much exploitation, of these that are locked into, whether it's between human trafficking, the energy draining, the fueling, the inspiration, not even just the copying of that kind of thing, but there's when these people are. Doing divination abuse and looking at people's records and finding out who's who, and it's got a massive, I might call it a karma, or there's a word for this in the Christian world, but they would call it like a dharma that's powerful, or to manifest and have access to creativity and whatever else it is, and via these sort of, it's kind of an Esau Jacob thing. They try to dress someone up in energy and all these things. And it's the Lord has been thwarting these, like, and it's as of lately, to an intense degree. So I don't want to talk lightly about it, but but she's been overplaying her hand and going after ascended masters and bigger names and power. Oh, look at this one, and she got drunk on this, like went too far, too hard. I think, look at this one, he didn't even know, and that it played right into a divine hand. She became intoxicated on the suffering and the blood, because there's a suffering, there's a narcissistic element where they're just kind of going after the hierarchy and needs and the blood of the faithful ones, because they're it's also too related to like abortion and things like that too. There's a river of blood that's in the spirit too of those who Cain and Abel or whatever they wear. That while that might be something in the demonic realm, there's a power or something associated with that. Is so much judgment from God and anger and I mean, there's protection that's happening now, but it's I guess have to bypass that one because it's too much to be developed at one time. But there's Jesus's blood is the most powerful thing in the world, in the galaxy. Keep going. But there's an element of sacrifice that was calling. It was like, the blood that those the people want, and that's. But it's the karmic debt on that is not worth it. When you're talking about hell, is so powerful that you have to have a resurrected body to even endure it for billions of years. So why would you choose that over? But it's as one who has been caught in Babylon at times, and not even realizing that. It's just like, oh yeah, David had a little bit of time in Ziklag, and it's just this was hard, and little justifications and all that, which is like many people have been caught up into that. So that spirit of seduction gets judged. It's not saying these people lost their salvation, or they aren't a chosen one, or God took His choice back, or something like that necessarily. But they might. If you care if you've been saved or not, then you haven't done the blasphemy of the Holy Spirit. But it gets harder and harder. Sometimes, I don't want to presume on the grace of God for different people, but it's when people get so locked in, they're just like, they don't repent, they don't plead the blood over, they don't wage war against it, that kind of thing. Try to realign their priorities, cut out this and that, whatever it is. That's where it can be a dangerous place. But we got that decree about taking your power back, and those kind of resources are available there. But we're working on another thing too, because part of this thing that was going after Chosen One was breaking down it's kind of their psyche. It's the hierarchy in need a little bit, but it's they're very variation of strategy on this kind of thing. Isolation, but also just kind of damaging the inner child and things like that. And so there's a variety of systems that are designed to they're still working out. They even, I don't know, healing from narcissistic abuse. Or Code is a great program for healing those kind of things, from reparenting, raising your inner child from the dead, and that kind of thing. But this Jezebel spirit is about to be judged for, I hesitate to get into timelines too much, because the Lord could change something, or you could be on a different timeline, or a little butterfly effect thing here, or whatever it is. It could let us, whoever needs to hear this in the right way, like may the Holy Spirit, adjust the portal of this meeting here. But it's as we get closer to a time where either the harlot takes on a greater expression of what it's already doing, though we can see some judgment on it now. We're still hard as breaking for those that are being judged in it, and our desire, His Lord's desires for all that come to repentance, that they wouldn't face this judgment, that kind of thing. But she is the source, this concept, this justification. Oh, it's just normal. It's everywhere. That kind of thing. And I'm repenting to the degree that I've engaged or promoted it as well, because you're starting to see like how this lines up very, very well with people say like Spirit of America or whatever. When Islam and stuff, they call America like the Great Satan, because of the corruption that we export to the rest of the world. And it's this kind of spirit, but it's not necessarily just here. And people, a lot of people think it'll be like Iraq or somewhere, it's like some city over there, but rebuild or whatever else. But it is a spiritual system, and it's designed to collapse under divine truth. So there are messengers like John the Baptist, that Isaiah 40, or the voice of one. It's meant to go after this, and they're coming by everywhere. There's just as many, though, that are awakening those that are chosen ones, and the same kind of thing. Before Moses, took out all the babies. Before Jesus, took out all the babies, and that's why Jesus was born in a manger. So the same kind of thing. There's coordinated, what they call it, astroturfing, and readers and familiar spirits and all these other kind of people that are just trying to get them into a new kind of matrix and feeding their energy into their respective channels, or it's a lot there. It's different kind of things, and not everybody's willing, and not everybody's even doing this kind of thing. And many are spending time in the Word and the very Spirit that they're channeling. They may not call it Holy Spirit, but they are being led of the Lord to call those to awaken and protect their powers and abstain from sexual immorality, and overindulgence and drunkenness and all of these, these sins that are that kind of thing. The one, we all have a different part of the message that we're adding to this thing here. It's not just like, no, you have to do it our way or whatever. It's just like, for Christ consciousness, can we have some Christ? Can we have some of his teachings? He talks about a lot of the stuff. Actually, you're quoting him, you don't even know it. Can we introduce that? No, and that's all I'm really trying to do here. So there are borrowed time, and they will destroy themselves in the end. But there is a call in Matthew 25. Hey, the Lord's coming back. That's what the wise virgins, kind of do. The Paul reveres or whatever. And that's kind of the John the Baptist, and that's kind of these first chosen ones now. But it's the same kind of thing. You heard a voice in chapter 18, like, a voice was heard. This corporate one, and it's a unified. And so, there's, I think, I'm not, trying to argue with those who disagree with me, because we're in two different camps. And if I call out different things, whatever, it's only because that's literally what it says in like 10 places about this very subject. Okay. And we'll see it here in a minute too. But it's, Revelation 2 and 3, those, you did good. You called out that Jezebel thing. But again, it's not, we're not getting religious about all kind of stuff. We're not saying whatever, don't wear makeup or anything like that. This is not that. This is about talking about this karmic intention that wants to keep them, the divine soulmates apart. And a lot of that, when you've been prophesying, you didn't even know, talking about trying to keep the bride away from the bridegroom, which is Christ. There's a divine marriage, and we've developed that in a lot of other places. So if that doesn't make sense, just give me a comment, and we'll get to another video. But there's okay, so another angel comes forth. We gotta look at this. This is when she falls. Okay, you're admiring her power, but you got to know her time has come to an end. And so the system built on lies and exploitations, and it's like ruins. It's a ghost town, cage for unclean spirits and draining energies. It's a spiritual wasteland incapable of further deception or energetic harvesting. And that we poison the nations, but whatever the source city, when they were all coming from, whatever it is. But like the Babylon's influence, I'm talking about the Tower of Babylon. The Tower of Babel in Genesis was like, we don't need God. We can just climb up there and get to him, And then it was, but it's not God. It's the second heavens, where the third heavens where the angels are, and then the second heavens where a lot of them have been thrown on the earth and whatever like that. But Satan and the rest of them are there, because they in the lake of the fire yet. That's later. But Babylonian influence, that's corrupted. It's massively corrupted, And as we can conspiracy theory and all that kind of stuff, with, I know we'll turn off too many people by talking about that, but it's on here. It's on the other channels if you want it. But greed and power too. You didn't think that these karmic things were like aligned demonically or whatever, but those illusions are being lifted. And so here's that voice I was talking about. I heard a voice calling, "Come out of here, my people. Leave now so you don't get caught in her judgment." And so it's a spiritual kind of coming out. And now, let me take that back. Now, for different people, it looks like different things. But it's a warning to detach from the systems to protect their alignment and energetically cut ties, with the draining influences. And it's just, you don't want to be, when it's getting judged, this is finish strong is all I'm saying. It's a time to finish strong and to wake up, And it's her sins sink to high heaven. God has kept a record of every injustice. So her exploitations and spiritual theft have not gone unnoticed, And so Job goes through all his things, and he's been testing all the different things or whatever, and he kind of sees the root of Babylon in some of this a little bit, and he's kind of owning his part in the things that have happened to him, and realizing, oh no, accusing God and just not being thankful is a big problem here. And though he may not align himself with the relationships that were a hole in his wallet or whatever, spiritual bank account or whatever else, he humiliation rituals and whatever, but he is saying, I'm going to guard my eye gates. I'm not going to say anything from this harlot before my eyes. And for some of you, that's fixing your algorithms or your phones or whatever it is. Like it's aligning with, not taking a chance on stuff there. But it's gray space, and it's keep it short accounts for the Lord. I'm going to preach every point. It's like, no, we got to sound this. All right, so some of y'all are really focused on this verse. And it's like, there's all these other ones here, but we love this one, and it's like, and that's part of the trap is build it all. That's the good part. When we do the other parts, our views go down. I'm just kidding. We don't know if we don't know him. Then we can say, give her back everything she sold, double what she took. So she filled the cup. Now to drink her own poison, right? But then there's kind of a meaning here too. I'm kind of working on the translation because it's like give to them back everything that was stolen from them, and that's kind of what I'm more focused on. And we're all more focused on that. Some of you hit that one hard, but I'm kind of saying like people get it double or a tenfold or all these different things, or whatever. I think Job got a tenfold. There's 100-fold in Matthew 13 for different things. So, but that's more the judgment seat kind of thing. But again, we're less focused on getting it back double or tenfold before he returns, because that's only going to make it. No, I'm not going to say that anymore. It will make it easier, especially when you use it correctly, which is focused on bringing the king back. Because it can be hard for a rich person to enter that I have. There's that 24/7 communion and not being caught in Babylon when it's hitting in there. It's just a divine. But when this happens, there is a divine grace to kind of stay focused. But it's a divine. But sometimes you have to be your own. Just whatever it is, instructor, drill sergeant, or cheerleader, or whatever, until you get there. But it's and it still kind of feels like there's an element of there's sobriety here now. What happened here in California, thing like that. That this is similar things will happen when the judgments come on the Antichrist system. So, but she bragged, "I'm the queen. No one can touch me." But disaster will strike her in one instant. And so her arrogance blinds her to her inevitable fall. Pride leads to destruction, but yet the humility, choose the lowest seat. Those who humble themselves will be exalted. The meek will inherit the earth, right? That constitution of the kingdom. That's in praying, but pray reading, and it's not just the spirit, not just the word, and that's why half of us are real good at one or the other, so that we need each other. That's the point of all this. But not in a cultic kind of way, well, you need me or whatever, we all have access to the same word. And we're all just like, well, I heard what he said. We take it to the Lord and see, what is true. If it's in your Bible, you're accountable for it. But plagues, famine, fire, destruction will be swift and absolute. God's judgment cannot be overturned. And so divine intervention, clearing the way for the new earth. It's really renovated earth, but we kind of say new because the earth is made new. It's not like a second planet, earth too. Although the timelines, but they kind of get consolidated when he returns. And so, but as these corrupt systems collapse, it's going to time. We know there's just 7 years. And I got a nice little chart here, with seven seals, 7 bowls, and all those kind of things. There's a war, there's a little mini war that is in different places, but it'll be kind of waged by the Antichrist. So, pray for Israel. If you want, that's the safest place. If God's people, because we're meant to, the chosen are supposed to be such a bright light that we make Israel jealous. We say to Israel, "Hey, your God reigns; He's with us." But here's your Messiah. And we're pointing to Jesus. Importantly, not to ourselves, but that's the Antichrist. Is that he will point to himself. And so then all we've been 2 trees. Israel will get to choose between the Antichrist system and the chosen ones, the Gentiles who finally got us together, the manifest sons of glory. So. And there's rejoicing, all this of God. Babylon's rule is over, and justice reigns. So the chosen and the heavenly beings, and the like, they all get to have that divine order and liberation of the earth. So it's a new era of spiritual alignment. Okay, so here is another version of God where it has. I'm not going to go through it exactly, but just to highlight some of these things that we're putting together is here's more of a direct translation and then a traditional insight. So this is kind of a message, like this is what a standard translation. It's not quite the highest. It's going to be like ESV, but this is more plain, like easy to understand message one. And then here's my little commentary that's more aligned with the language that you're, these kings are people in positions of power who are in line with these lower vibration systems, right? And the beast, it's a symbol of control that perpetuates fear and separation and energetic bondage, eventually becomes the actual Antichrist, For a little bit, he benefited off of her. He may not have revealed himself, "I am God, worship me, here's the mark of the beast" yet. That's more of a I don't want to say second term thing, but I'm just saying there was a moment where that system supported this beast, right? And he was adorned with names of blasphemy and oppression, right? Then it's kind of like these corrupt institutions use deception to maintain control. And then just kind of, they can, some of them got the gifts, seeing spirit and, secret society, this, that kind of thing. They know who. It's like, you don't even go here. Why are you here? You ever go to a place or whatever? It could be a church, it's like, and you just feel like, or you just give you side eye, like, this ain't your car. I'm just saying, they know, and you didn't know that they knew. And it's like, everybody hates Christ. But it's, she clothed in well, scarlet and gold, and her cup overflowed with the blood of the innocent and the energy of the starseeds. And so, false promises, drawing the chosen into spiritual and emotional exhaustion. It's a big part of it, because it's harder to pray if you're exhausted. If your energy's being drained and you're keeping the city alive or whatever. So her wealth is built on the exploitation of sacred energies. Her name, Mystery Babylon the Great, mother of energy harvesters and earthly abominations. So she embodies the Jezebel archetype of spiritual deception, false enlightenment. There are many roads to God. You don't need the blood of Jesus, or that's old-fashioned. Just raise your vibration, integrate your sin, integrate your shadow. I mean, there's an element of integrating shadow on certain things that is of God, but it can be used to justify a lot of sinful behavior. So she was drunk on the energy and vitality, and a little bit drunk. It's kind of like overplaying her hand more than like stumbling, though, like backfires and stuff like that. But calls attention to spiritual warfare needed or not needed, that is formed against Starseed light workers, those who prey on the spiritually awakened. But there again, we are not the ones to be in fear. There is so much protection. When this is starting to play out, this is where people will say like, "Touch not my anointing" or whatever, and things like that. I mean, I learned my lesson for talking about a leader who fell, especially when it turned out to be a smear campaign, stuff like that. I'm not weighing in on particular things or whatever. Elements of it there was deliberate misinformation, and just let's just say the people who really care about getting the facts right and scientific things like that suddenly don't care as much, or journalistic integrity is like, well, but when it fits your agenda or whatever. But like, it's true. I mean, there's always a little hint of truth to some things, not always. Sometimes completely fabricated, but I don't know. I digress. So, why are you astonished? Don't worry about it. The Antichrist and the woman are going to end soon. Their time is short. The whole thing is like 7 years, but the intense part of it, seals and trumpets, is not. We're a lot of us are spared on that. And if you're not, being martyrs is the highest glory there is. So how long does it even last? So we've been in prison. So we going back. Anyway, that people may. There is. They definitely persecute the Christians, for sure. But got to get to them first. The God's justice will prevail over these corrupt systems. The beast appears powerful, but is rooted in illusion. It rises and falls, deceiving those not aligned with the higher truths of the divine. So again, that tree of knowledge and good and evil, they're holding on to that for dear life. Many switch sides for this kind of plays out, but people are too entrenched, too addicted to it. And then again, we talk about like they didn't love truth, they loved strong delusion. Delusion is there to be had. The delusion that they can win. They don't have to wake up. But then like all of these things are like progressively, it's like, hey, wake up. I think God's serious about this. He really cares. But there's nobody more jealous than God. That's the thing. Take your worst ex-girlfriend or TV trope or whatever it is, and that jealousy of God is way worse. And he will burn that city. I'm just saying, because he wants your heart, because you're his, and but that's what the devil's trying to do. Is just like, you don't really believe he is. He doesn't hear you, and like he hears every single word and wants more. But he's committed to process. God is radically committed to process and to there's honoring him. But he's always hearing, and you're always moving. You move his heart with every word that you say, even if it's just like help. You know what I mean? The Song of Solomon. Jesus says to the Father, let her kiss me. Or no, she says, like he wants to. Like, and a kiss, of course, is just like on the spirit. It's not like that kind of kiss. All that stuff, that sensual stuff, is not in this at all. It's like we're like angels, but in this element. And so, but it's a romance, but it's a corporate romance. We're never meant to be in love with people. They're placeholders. It was always about us and divine romance in between this being, this light being, this angelic force called Jesus. I mean, yes, he was a real man, and he will have there's a resurrected body and all these things. He was Jewish, all of that. But there is just nothing like the bliss and the energetic way. But you have to have eyes to see and ears to hear. You can't see it just in the 3D. And so in the 3D, this makes a lot more, or the 5D, like a lot more sense. So it's like, oh, I'm getting romance by the love of God. Anyway, Brian says, let him, because he wants to, but he has to restrain, because it is all, there are rules, and it's hunger is what is a needed, necessary component, and because he doesn't give his pearls to swine either. Like, you have to enter in, but it gets easier and easier, and we are in a really easy time. So, okay, so the beast appears powerful, but it's rooted in illusion. The time has come. Okay, so the leaders became rich through her seductions, right? By seducing, Christians, whatever. All of the money and all the gold and all the everything and the oil and everything is God's. It's a deception, and it's a temporary thing of illusion, that by which they're funneled through other places. And Jesus is about to take it all back, because the seal of the book of Revelation, it is Revolution, but it is a title deed to the earth that Adam gave to Lucifer when he ate from the tree. And so the leaders became rich through seduction, because that became the most profitable, because that's what Satan wanted, because he's the ruler of he's the illusion house. Now, a deal's a deal, and if there was a curse knit to that tree, Jesus broke it, and now the manifest sons of God, the chosen ones, and who bring forth, prepare the way for him, and manifest this kingdom, right? The new heavens and new earth, by breaking the curse, by all of us. Oh, sorry, Revelation hitting fast. So by all of us hitting those promises and walking in these. This is making so much more sense. And that's the other thing, is like, what is rule number? I forgot my own rule number 1 from years ago. Rule number 1 is, do not stumble over the time delay. And so what has been so attacked? As I've it kind of expanding on these things or whatever. Not necessarily always, because there's a down payment on this stuff, and then there's the reality. But of both, like the wherewithal to be able to do, what you need to do. The inheritance, all these kind of things. There was an appointed time for Jesus to take back this penalty. And he's going to fight the Antichrist, like the greatest action movie you ever saw. Spiritually or on the earth, and I know my opinion on that, but it's we take the promised land, that for Moses had to lead them through, and it was complaining, just kind of blocking your own blessings by complaining too much. And they just wander around, and then the complainers just gave up, and then everybody else entered in. For this generation, there are how many curses and how much technology involves, all kinds of demons and whatever else. It's never been harder or more complex on the Lucifer side, and yet the power there is so much stronger. If you just got to keep pressing in and lay hold of it. So, but everything working against you to keep you from doing that. But that's about to change, and as these things changes, and the kingdom starts to manifest, and there's suddenly the seduction is not this profitable business that it used to be. And Egypt's about to get judged, but that voice from heaven, break free from her hand, so you don't from her hold, so you don't share in her downfall, or counter side mission, redeem it, because we're all in the redeeming business, and so it's kind of you just have to be led by the Lord of that kind of thing but it's about severing energetic ties with the Babylonian system, so and the first step is engaging in spiritual cleansing and that kind of things. I think for a lot, but once you ascend to a certain level, there's there's a level of connectivity. Everything is just bounce right off. But her sin has reached the heavens, and God remembers every act of her oppression. So justice is inevitable, and the harvesting has consequences. So you got to trust in divine accountability. All right. So you can see a little translation here, there. All right. So part 2, section 2. Really important side verses outside of Revelation supporting all this. Verses that did not make sense until now. They were kind of, the elements of these things like that. So what is the matrix that the chosen one are about to leave one matrix, and what's being presented to keep them out from actually manifesting the king and disrupting this is perilous will come. Perilous will come. Men become lovers of themselves, money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, no self-control, brutal, despisers of God, traitors, headstrong, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. And here's the biggie. Having a form of godliness, but denying its power. So, religious practices that justify all these things, no, really, you should be mad. But again, it's not suppression. It's different. Look at the Psalms, Lamentations. He complained, David, Jeremiah, he complained, but he turned it into prayer. I got put in the Bible, like it counted that there's that shadow working, that working in, and you'll just see like they did this, and it's just facts. That happened, and then this, and this. Validating. I hear you, inner child. If this was bad, and you're sad, and this kind of thing, and then you see the reparenting that David would do. Key of David. That's the whole thing there. You delivered me because your delight is in me. That all happened, but you know what? You broke in. A lot of times there's just that. Even Paul does that, and such were you, and so were all of you. But now you're you're washed. Everybody else is like him, her, but that's that blood of Jesus thing, because it's that impartation of His life for mine, and so it's just He keeps on. He is that. You're in that video game, that a little save point. All right, try again, try again. But whatever it is, don't get locked into it. But some people are like, well, I'm just going to keep, look at this, I'm just going to keep falling. How far can I fall? I'm in the underworld. I'm in the sub-underworld. I'm in the middle of the earth. But the slanderers, it's the chosen ones have set them up, I think, a little bit to be in this place. That's the seduction too. In the religions that justify it, and the elitism, and he did it all. False grace, he did it all, so I don't have to. We're all broken. It's like, you gotta lay hold of this. So that spirituality denies the reality of God's authority, the dynamic work of the Holy Spirit, emphasizing human agendas over divine truth. The Jezebel spirit is a spirit of mixture. But the Lord is saying, to the spirit without mixture, I'll give my spirit without measure. The people without mixture, I'll give a spirit without measure. Okay, so timing of all this stuff. Another thing is it gets attacked. It's right here, though. Let no one deceive you by any means, who not come as a falling away. Apostia, in Greek, translated to a falling away. The Christians, it's going to fall first. And that's through the energy harvesting and abortion, and however they were taken out. It's led astray, trafficked, all them ways. And the man's been revealed, son of perdition. But that it's going to get bad, and then a bunch of them are just going to wake up. Matthew 25, hey, hey, you letting them back in? Wait, we've been good over here. Why is he going to come? And it's like somebody saved as up a fire, because it's like you should want him to be, because or her to be, or whatever. Because that's pray for them, and then that counts to your bank account. Be a part of it. So it will not occur unless there's an absolute, and then by Antichrist manifestation. So falling away is a massive departure from the faith, driven by deception, rebellion, and it's going to further solidify that which is God's truth. And sadly, there will be chosen ones who will use that name probably too. And then we'll be saying, what we got, it's the chosen mark, or whatever it is. Just get your forehead, get your hand, and worship a man. It's fine, don't worry about it. Is the man Jesus? Because, but, fear is, it's all an illusion. I mean, he's been showing you that. But if that's how they can try to get you, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff out here. So none of this looks like how any of us thought it would. And so it's a complete, it takes some time to reprocess all this and figure out what's what. But the Lord even said that unless you become like a baby, you can be, you can't enter into the kingdom. There's an element of that. So the chosen children, starseeds, finally creative or manifestation power, or all of these 7 spheres of society. They have these gifts for these different things, different callings, and that's the blood of the saints, and it's the blood, sweat, and tears of the saints. It's but martyrdom, manipulation, seduction into that spirit, or Esau, Jacob, Destiny Swamp, whatever, all that stuff. And she starts to overplay her hand because it's worked for so long, and some of these are like, I talk about all the people that is just like, you can just see Elisha and Elijah and the mantle that was offered to Elisha to walk in all these powers that Elijah did. And I almost, I've heard different things that Courtney Love has said to people, just like, I offering Kurt's mantle, it's all these people. And it's funny, it's like, no one leaves that exchange with her necessarily on, and they're either promoting somebody, it's just, it's not the Lord way necessarily. Well, there was one actually, but it's kind of mixed with some like Russian propaganda and stuff like that. But there's you can just see she's leaving this trail. These folk here, and I think that's a divine example of just like how that spirit can kind of just seduce people into different ways, and then once they're hooked, it can be the smear campaign of blackmail, or you just take them out, or drugs, or whatever it is. It's but I'm just saying, there, and I use these examples too, because there's people who go back and forth or whatever on MJ, but it's he was definitely worth more dead than alive, and they were definitely giving him drugs he had no business giving to him, and there are people that he did have, people that he didn't, and whatever. So I'm just saying that imagine those what they would have done, but if they had allowed to continue. We did get some of the vault stuff from Prince, but just it's interesting, right? Because you find out they all too were hit with drugs and stuff like that. The 4 main sins of the end of the age are drugs, sexual immorality, theft, and murder. And so how they taking out them? That's like taking the property of them or whatever. And that's what Holocaust was. What a lot of that was using race or whatever. Not the other Jewish identity and culture to target them, to take land from them. That was a big part of. If they couldn't motivate people one way, they would do that the other way necessarily. So it's not all just like everybody just hated them or whatever. It was just like, well, then that was a little carrot and stick kind of thing. But again, people did. Some didn't. Some were secretly hid them in the World Wars or whatever. So, but the personal information, births, days, and times, that people feel like they can tell, I wouldn't put that information out there necessarily, but then witches find it, witches find a way. And so they don't. Anyway, they have consulted together with one consent, they are confederate against thee, right? The thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Yeah, that's a demon. It's like, you just did a little bit of lust, a little thing, a little, and that. Yeah, and then what Jesus says, like, then that one demon brings his friend, and his friend brings 3 friends. You give a mouse a cookie, like, deliverance every day, man. Make them decrease. So, abuse, rage fits, intermittent reinforcement's a big one. Narcissistic abuse on starseeds, right? There's been so much written about when empath, what's about these empaths and how narcissists seem to target them. But if you put that together with like, okay, these karmics, everybody has a little bit of piece of the equation here. You just kind of combine them all. You're like, oh, wait a minute. So the karmics, they've signed up for this game, this assignment, the demonic thing, to keep people from Jesus or keep them from their soulmate. Sometimes their soulmate is Jesus. and then, well, they get a little handbook of narcissistic techniques, whatever it is, or just a demon or whatever, demonic attachment. And they all, because it's been so funny to see all these doctors everywhere. It's like, why do all the narcissists do it the same way? And it all works. It's like they have a handbook, or it's like the demons or whatever. So it's just, but a massive concept. We're so indebted to the work of Dr. Sam Bankin now. I got to mention Grandin, Richard Grandin, and I agree with, obviously these people differ on things. I can't say I agree with everything they say, but man, the iron sharpens iron, Dr. Romney, all that stuff. So it's just like, but talking about how, like, what the narcissist does, it puts an interject in your head, right? And that's that love bombing at the beginning, but there's sometimes this, obsession spells, moon magic, and God knows what. I'm not going to advertise it, but like, there are different ways that they get that illusion version of who they are in their head. And so a lot of times you don't necessarily relate, interact with people, especially if they're close to you or whatever, but you interact with that interject. And so then that illusion can then become a way of energetic harvesting, mental energy, but this is just spiritual. What you focus on can grow and these kind of things. And so these narcissists can get powerful because they've not only have they, because some of the stuff they do is so wicked that it's like, it's Ursula and the Poor Unfortunate Souls, but it's kind of like Twin Peaks in season 3 where he's in the red room because I think Annie got him. And because normally that Mr. C, the evil Cooper doppelganger, wouldn't be able to exist on the earth just due to karma and dharma and other things. But through the sort of like energetic swap and the exchange and these kind of things, the kind of doppelganger copycat thing is able to like go forth in this other person's energy, put them in that little red room and spun out. And this can be, I'm thinking 10 different expressions, 10 different things of what this can look like, right? So it's going to land differently for those who know what I'm talking about. If you're on this hashtag, you already know. But it's they're energetically feeding this other person that's doing the Mr. C stuff and living out that spiritual, heavenly bank account or a dharmic thing or callings and reverse karma. And then, because there's an energetic exchange, because it's not, you were never meant to be like, this is way more difficult and harder than I think any of us ever realized to try to do. Christ made it so easy and so away, but it's also like, you got to take this really seriously. But because we haven't had the 4D and 5D, it's been really, versus if you're powerless to do it, how do you do it? If you're taking it out before you can breathe air, how do you do it? Because people are time jumping and working against you. It's just, I don't know, but just keep looking at him, and it's there are ways, and we're learning. We're trying to get the information out. But like Jeremiah, that's why Jeremiah cried. That's why I cried when they're going through this stuff, because it's like people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. They perish for lack of vision. They cast off restraint because of lack of vision, and so lack of knowledge, information. But Proverbs 2 is that the knowledge you're getting, get knowledge, but then you got to have the Spirit too, and just keep your eyes on Him and pray, read the Word, John 5:38. So it all works together. But then, like, well, why do I have to pray, read? Why can't I just read the Bible? Why do you need Spirit? Well, Matthew 7. Many will say to me at Judgment Day, "Hey, Lord, I know you. Remember me?" And He's like, "I never knew you. You had the book, right?" And Buffy, like, talking about, "I don't need that Slayer manual." I think Buffy would say, but then when she was in heaven, and then like they brought her back. Wow. But it's interesting because that's what you focus on grows, and there's elements, and there is stuff that He does speak through. But you can't let it be an idol. That's the tricky thing, because He will destroy them idols. I'm telling you what, He is jealous. We have, all of these earthly things are to tell you about something spiritual and probably tell you something about Him. And so all these people that made you feel heartbreak, so you could know about His heartbreak. And all these people that you heartbroke, oh, okay, well, shouldn't do that anymore. So that's what I did to the people. Oh, damn. I need you to steward my speech and my relationships more. Reasonably. So energetically, there's an exchange, and whether this is a spiritual marriage or a 4D marriage or wherever this happens, but when it says, don't lust, because it is a spiritual marriage that happens in one flesh. I use our oaths and stuff like that. I believe those can be broken and cut or whatever. But there needs to be communication and whatever, reconciliation, those kind of things. That's a conscious thing. There's, I don't know, a lot of laws are being broken, and there are processes of restoration and things like that need to be implemented. So hopefully that's come up here soon. But there is, there's this whole entire thing of just like people are manifesting off energy via soul ties. So that whole thing of like Delilah, I don't want your money, I want your power. I want your power, and how do you get it? And so that kind of symbolic thing of cutting the hair and other things like, up to half my kingdom, people are able to manifest off that, whatever, according to a position of, it's, we've gone through the examples on other things. There's a lot in the Bible about this thing, but it's not necessarily male or female, whatever, but it's a destiny exchange, a karma exchange, and so people are walking around with bad karma because it's of the soul ties and the things they haven't cut yet. So again, the witch is new, but there's just, they didn't tell you, or you knew, and it's just, you should. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me? Anyway, so the dormant ascended masters, earth angels, they have strong ancestral protection. That's a lot of you. If you made it this far, if you got to here, then it's you got something. And so now the Lord's like, let me take this all to him. Even Paul, they were like, let me make sure that's right. But hold on, you got to quote this like all the time. No weapon formed against me, you're going to prosper. You're going to realize how you can co-create with spirit and how much you want to get out of fear by just claiming these things and whatever else. Salts, spiritual showers. So as the interject chapter I was talking about, so an idealized false version of the abuser, because they'll leave it spun out like, but they were good, but they were bad, but they were good. Are they good or are they bad? But they did this, but what? But they did this. It's like they're a different person every day. It's just well, not a lot to say about that, but it's just if somebody's bad, doesn't matter how good they were, and if they made you love for the first time, they probably got to see your own light back because everybody was keeping that from you, the power of that, and so then they awaken that in you, and they probably put a couple of illusions in there. I mean, I don't know. I'm not teaching all that witch stuff or what can be done or advertising for that kingdom, but it's all getting judged anyway. So I'm telling you, just like, don't give it too much energy, and that's part of the astroturfing too. But it's intentional or not, is to try to get you to focus on them toxic exes. Carl say he's changed. What's that South Park? Look at me, I'm changing. No, I'm not saying don't pray for them because I do believe in if they don't, unless you know they're karmic or whatever. We're still trying to prove that karmics cannot be saved. But Saul was killing Christians, and he got saved, and he wrote half the Bible. So dismantling the illusion, Axel, use your illusion, right? How about him telling old Buckethead to, he's got to keep his heart pure to make music. Yeah. And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. There are things that the Lord put in my walk early on that became really important to get free from this stuff. Talking about screw tape letters. This is the karmic handbook. I'm assuming they're already using it or wouldn't advertise it, or whatever, the new version of it is. But it's like, try to get him to hang out with those people more. We've got friends over there. It's like demons writing to each other. Like, hey, how do we get him down? Hey, he went to church again. All right, we got it. All right, what time's the bars closing? Is there? So whatever. I just say bars or whatever. I mean, it's like some of y'all are sober and all that kind of stuff. It's just, how can we get this person in life or whatever? Let's get him dating or something. We can make it karmic. Manipulation systems for power and control will illustrate the battle between light and darkness. There's that mark of the beast is in there. They put up these signs like, have you seen Father Callahan? He's got a mark on his forehead and his hand. But it's like a pet, but it's really, whatever. So the chosen one, along with biblical promises for victory in God, And all these things we are more than conquerors through him that loved us. So it's enough said on that. Okay, so chosen ones, God planned for people to be his people, and chose them to bring praise to God. Many are called, few are chosen. Right? Parable of the wedding banquet. Everybody's called. Position yourself to be chosen. Kind of thing. And, it starts off by saying, "Yes, Lord, I give you my life. I'm yours. Lead me. I accept your blood as my sacrifice for my sins." Yeah. You can Google it. There's someone who's sinned away who does not have the wedding clothes, right? You got to have the righteousness of Christ. Like, what did you do? You don't even go here. If they say to me, no, but and this one is like, oh, okay, well, you have the righteousness of Christ. You have a relationship with him. You know him. There's a but you got to have oil. Oil in your lamp, a prayer life. Put that on your planner. A lot of resources out there. It calls everyone, gives them the power to respond. To be chosen, God must respond to the call by accepting it, by being grateful and serving God and his Son. Therefore, we have an obligation. It's not to the flesh, but to live according to it. If you live according to the flesh, you will die. But if by the Spirit you put to death the misdeeds of the body, you will live. If you're led by the Spirit of God, so are the children of God. So this is all it builds progression. We can call God Father. Angels cannot call God Father. We are so high up there, we will judge angels, which is like intense. I hate saying that. They're divine beings, like us, right? So it's heirs of God, co-heirs of God. It's if you're locked in 3D and you're trying to pry and open that third eye in your mind, but it's it takes you have to keep praying and knocking and believing, and I'm getting a picture. It's like that's what I need to do. Like rewriting the code of your mind, manifest that open 3-eyed, and undo that code in your mind that says that you whatever it is that's holding you back. This mantras, meditation. And write down a version of it that says you can, right? Because it all goes to power and according to rank and all that kind of stuff to a degree. But who got a higher rank over yourself than you? Christ. Right? He kind of beats it all. So ask whatever needs to be broken, break it, decree it. So creation, the earth itself is longing for the revelation of the chosen ones, and those who just like walk in their power. In a right relationship, for the earnest expectation of the creature waiteth for the Lord. But it is, there's a cheap grace, but message that's getting judged, because it's like we are to be image bearers, ambassadors. We're trying to let go of everything we can so we can be as close to looking like him as we can, as defined by the word and spirit. And so that's by keeping our eyes on him and staying close to him. And it's not being like inauthentic. He's making us our true authentic selves. And so, but it's according to grace, and it's glory to glory. It's a progression by progression. But there's an element too, just like in Deuteronomy, he kind of hovered around and was helping and healing and fighting enemies and doing all stuff. And then he sees one thing and he kind of just like, why is that here? That jealousy is for real, man. But he's not just gonna leave and not tell you. He's gonna make it known. So. And that's what I'm talking about, love and truth. Hey, Lord, search, what's that, Psalm 130 something? Search me and know me. If there be any offending way in me, and pray that every day, and then make it right. So he will let you know through other people, through himself. I'm the king that's opened the Bible at the right place. It's anointing for that. Some of y'all got that too. So Romans 8, those who are led by the Spirit are sons of God. Led by the Spirit, you can walk by the Spirit. All these by the Spirit things, just by talking to him, and his native tongue is the word of God, but he will talk to you about the matrix and all these other things we're kind of getting into. So we're manifesting certain things, or act by accident, or to get understanding, whatever. You can just read about them sometimes, but because you don't have that spirit of fear or spirit of bondage to fear, but you're adopted. You're in the royal family. There's a place in the mansions of God. That mansion is just for you. There are these rooms. That room is just for you. And there are more thoughts about you in each of these rooms than there are sands, grains of sands on the beach there, and you're interacting with him, and you say one thing, and you're trying to get, it can be overwhelming, or it can be underwhelming, trying to get that one sand, and it just explodes your whole mind and undoes your heart. it's revelation of believers who fulfill their purpose and break them curses. And so you just stay close to him and your eyes on him and start, I mean, for me, there need to be an element of shadow work. That might not be that for you, all those things, inner child, codependency, but God can have, because I see a lot of that in the scripture, and there's being willingness to just love truth, and he'll lead you where you need to go to. But all of it's much is given, much is required. There's a reach, because he said, Matthew 5:48, be perfect as I am perfect. Now, who's going to get there? Some of us might, but it's much is given, much is required. Are you walking in all you have to the best of your ability? And when you don't, you cut yourself. You just pick way. It's like, I love this jazz thing. Sigmund Bloom talking about, like, play jazz. Make a mistake, try something else. Make a mistake, play jazz. And you just when you make a mistake, you do it 3 more times. People think you did it on purpose, but in this case, it's not about appearances. It is more just about, like, there's grace, and not, but the danger zone is to be like, I got grace for this, until you don't. So, but again, we're not judging others, because that measure we use to them as it comes back to us, but we are judging others when it's like within our sphere, our camp, or within, like the Apostle Paul said to do, so that with righteous judgment you can help your brother get the speck out of his. And does it say to do that on blast, or does it say to go to him, DM, or whatever? Pray for him. Will work sometimes too. So, Antichrist is the ultimate rebellion, claiming to take God's position. Because this is what was happening anyway. Now we just know. Every so-called God or object of worship, he says he's the highest. It takes the seat in the temple. They will rebuild that. The drunkenness, the spiritual apathy, and the drunk on the spirit of the age, and the spirit of seduction. And it is like, it's a spiritual drunk, because you just, I'm grooving, man. And there's a divine sobriety to know the hour that you're in. Or it's just like trusting in a corrupt system that enables it, or a reunion, or whatever. But he carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness, and I saw a woman on base and 7 heads and 10 horns. And it was manipulated by Babylon to dominate and deceive. And the spirit works through these systems to target chosen ones, exploiting their vulnerabilities and aligning them with force of darkness through manipulation and control. Golden cup, poison, abominations, immorality, and it's fueled by trafficking and pornography and everything else. Some other prostitutes and nurse abominations, right? And Paul said, like, do you not know? Like, you're joined to her, so like, there's a soul tie that's made you one. Like, but again, that's in the 3D. That's the joining and whatever. But that's in the 4D. These other things are happening, or whatever. But at least by this interpretation, the joining happened in 3D. To be clear. But then the one body was in this sort of the soul tie situation. I think people are getting tripped up by that. But again, there's if you look with lust in the eyes or whatever, there's an element of being joined too that Christ was talking about. So it's all I don't know, man. So I saw the woman drunk with the blood of saints and the blood of the martyrs of Jesus, and persecuting God's people, drawing power from their suffering. Yeah, I'm being told to go back to this. Yeah, so I misspoke there. I would just not look with lust in the eye, and because this joining the spiritual thing, it's bigger than we know. Sounds like. So the drunk with the blood of saints and the martyrs of Jesus, drawing power from their suffering, and there's a sadistic element too, of energetic harvesting too, psychopathically. That's happening some of that, but then there's 4. We have that page with the 4 different kinds of energy harvesting. And it can be news cycles, and sometimes too, middle energy, that kind of thing. When they want to target the chosen ones specifically to manifest into their networks or whatever. And that's where Trump was just so good for those that were in the derangement syndrome the first time, just on that other side. And what Kamala would have been for this other, the other end. Imagine. And unfortunately, So there is 7 mountains, and that's 7 mountains can be taken to be like the different spheres. They're actually different nations, 10-nation coalition, 7-nation coalition. But a lot of this has been taught and taught and taught. So you can look all that up. But I wanted to hit this targeting earth angels and systemic harassment, all that, and the Jezebel spirit. That is those with him are called chosen and faithful. There it is again. Loving this. But they will make war on the Lamb, and the Lamb will conquer them. He is faithful and true. He is we were his choice. We're his bride, and his righteousness is imputed towards us as we keep saying yes, and it's transformative. You don't want, when the glory comes, you don't want to depart from it. So, there's all, I'm not making laws here with that kind of thing. I'm just saying that there's a grace that comes with the glory. Is what I'm trying to say. The law you saw with the people, the multitudes, and the nations and languages, right? And the Antichrist, actually, you're gonna people will celebrate because we've hated the energy harvesting so much that some of us are like, I don't even say it like that. Those among us will be so happy with this beast for tearing down this harlot, exposing her, what she did. But he ain't gone. He's literally, they think he is or whatever, but no. Showing himself he is God, whatever. It's like, no. He hates the prostitute, but he hates it. We all hate the Antichrist. We hate the beast. We don't want this. We've known about everybody's kind of known about the mark, whatever. But are you going to be in fear and take it and tell other people to take it? Because it's like, well, I don't know, money and all things like. Now you got to trust your manifestations. But again, you're trusting him because of a secret history in him and the way that he has shown you that his hand has been behind all of this. It's all been an illusion. And some of it you've given your power and you've been co-creating with the enemy, and some you've been co-creating with him. And you can tell the difference. But you start kicking people out of your energy too, and you can see the divine stories through everything. So, but again, even when he's letting the enemy kind of control you a little bit, it's still him reminding you that he is here and that he is, nothing happens but by his will. And it's the grace of God that you would be shocked now with, the humiliation that you've been through, that the spirit team knew. Then at the judgment seat, that is a massive, that's what I was saying. Some of y'all can do is say, yeah, it's every day, hey, shock me now, shock me later. Don't shock me later. If you shock me now, then I can fix it. Hopefully, it's too late then. So you cannot manipulate him, and he knows what he wants of your heart. Remembers things that so the systems turn on themselves, and then everybody's primed on one end for that manifestation according to that beast. But ain't too long for judgment. 7 seals, and there's a war, and then there's death. And then from the death, there's famine, and because of all that killing and everything, and the destruction, and it's got kind of cause and effect too. What can happen just as you realign, plowshares into swords, the reversal, and it's just he wants power to through this whole thing. But the stories we're gonna have from either giving our lives for the Lord, and the stories we're gonna have from this glorious kind of rebalancing and walking in power. And you can see there's been, Moses took the people out, and then there was, miracles. The book of Acts, Jesus said greater works than these. Greater works than the book of Acts. Greater works and miracles from heaven. In a time when you really need them, it's showing off. Not just manna from heaven, but parting seas and everything else. So it's going to be, So the woman you saw is a great city, has dominion over the kings of the earth, and there was a unifying on the other side, so that they could hand their power, the royal power, chosen power, starseed power. Christians are in this. chosen ones handed their royal power over there, until the words of God are fulfilled. But in God's sovereignty, who is outside of time, no matter nothing can be done. Even go back in time, and He's still outside of it, and still is working and orchestrating these little 11th hour winds. These little, there's 2 minutes left. Okay, awaken. Sleeper cell. Jack Bauer over here. It's he tolerated or permitted the influence to fulfill a godly purpose, but as her dominion over the chosen will be and is being dismantled as we awaken from the matrix, as we heal and we align with divine truth. That's why this message is here, because there's another message out there that says, in Christ, mark the beast, you don't need to manifest manna from heaven. Just keep shopping. I like shopping. I like spending money. I don't need to keep calling out no heaven. That sounds like a lot of work. Fighting in, there's a war or something. Yeah, I'm ready for boats and coats and mansions, and let me just manifest. Let me manifest a world where this doesn't happen. Okay, well, give me that timeline. Not really, because I don't want the kingdom without the king, right? And that's what this is about. He's got, I want to talk about this because it's my calling, but what I want to talk about is the book of John, 14 to 17. How there's all these little. Each one of those scriptures is a book in the library of heaven that just has so much of the heart and the love of God and the character of His nature, and you're undone falling in love with having these experiences of knowing the person you're meant to be with. But it's not in a romantic man and wife thing. It's a completely different spiritual element of which it's never been so attacked. The concept or whatever, but it's we all feel I love Jesus, we love Jesus or whatever, but how much if God could make the earth, what could He do to the human heart? It's so much so that you have to get a new body, a resurrected body, like Jesus did in Easter, to even experience it. But we get down payments of it, and that's that. He might make us lie down in green pastures, like that shepherd breaks out legs so that they're forced to. Sometimes it doesn't have to happen like that. They can just, sheep's all right, I gave mercy, or it's like 27, Psalm 27. It's in the midst of battle. And it's behold the beauty of the Lord. Return to your first love. It's book of Revelation 3 or something. It's but the day of the Lord, He ain't coming back on the earth until the Antichrist does his thing first, and then he gets that title deed, popping one seal off at a time through the war progressions, all that. And the angels are blowing these trumpets, and on the 7th one, then there's a rapture and the progression all around the earth. And He's going to take the power back. So, but it's He's the judgment. We are fasting, praying, and you're not too far gone until you take the mark of the beast. So there is that. But at that point, you knew whatever you signed up for that. So at that point, you wouldn't care because you're believing that the Antichrist is the Messiah or whatever. He's going to break the curse. He's already broken it. Whatever the laws look like in that kind of way. But all right, this really strong ring in my ear tells me that we're at the end of the notes anyway. So, but I am going to pray on this one and more to come. But this is an exciting time.